The good, the bad and the miracles. Pops felt that he was in the middle of a spaghetti western movie. Xavier, his friend and interpreter, had been driving for a couple of hours, and by the time Pops got up to preach, standing on 4 orange boxes, it was pitch black, and all he could see of the congregation, apart from a few horses hitched up to posts, were the first 2 or 3 rows, mostly Mexican men, some wearing cowboy hats, others with droopy moustaches, 1 or 2 wearing old Bruce Willis vests, but all of them, much to Pops's relief, instead of 6-shooters, were carrying Bibles. The meeting, as far as Pops could tell, was being held in a very big garden or orchard of some kind. Pops was preaching about the resurrection and how the angel told the woman, "It's no good looking for the living amongst the dead because Jesus is alive." Then a thought popped into Pops's head and he said, "You know God has commanded his disciples, not angels, to preach the gospel to the world." Suddenly, it seemed that the whole congregation were on their feet cheering and clapping and hugging one another. Pops hadn't got a clue what was happening. After a while the people calmed down and the meeting eventually finished, with some kneeling and praying with tears, others singing and dancing. Pops decided he liked Mexicans. As people started to make their way home, the leader asked Xavier if they could tell their story to Pops. "It will explain about the angel," they said. The 5 leaders of the church invited Xavier and Pops to what Pops presumed was going to be a restaurant, but it was a spaghetti western saloon, complete with swinging half doors, a long bar, and men playing poker. Pops was hoping to see someone chewing tobacco and saying, "Do you feel lucky, punk?" But he realised he was getting his films mixed up. Over very hot tacos and gallons of Coke, the leaders told their story. "We were all black magicians, but we wanted more power. We were told to go to a certain mountain and meet with other witches, and the chief witch would appear and give us more power. So we set off up the mountain, but halfway there an angel appeared to us and said what we were doing was against God's command and dangerous, and to go back home and read a Bible. None of the men had Bibles, so they asked the local Roman Catholic priest for one, but he refused. After travelling to the nearest big town, they were able to buy 5, and they started at Genesis and read all the way through the Old Testament. Then they prayed, asking God to send his angel again to explain what they were reading. The angel came and told them to carry on reading into the New Testament, which they did. Matthew, Mark, Luke and John, and then into the Acts of the Apostles. And then when they started reading the Acts of the Apostles in chapter 2, God baptized them in the Holy Spirit, and they became new men. Soon their wives, children, uncles, aunties, nephews, nieces, neighbours were being saved and joining what they now realised was a brand new church, the one Pops had just preached in. The angel appeared once more to them, and amongst the things they were told was that it was the job of the church to preach the gospel to the world, and there would be a gringo coming across the water to tell them more about Jesus, and Pops was that man. That's why they got so excited about his comment concerning the angel and the empty tomb. If anyone had told that story to Pops, he would have found it very hard to believe, but he stayed with those men for 3 weeks, was with the church every day and saw how they lived, their great love for God and one another, their desire for holiness and for the lost. Pops knew he was witnessing something very special and truly amazing. After the men had finished their story, they asked, "What happened to you at 4 o'clock yesterday?" "The Spirit spoke to us all separately to meet together and pray for you because you were in danger." "At 4 o'clock yesterday," Xavier told them, "we were driving down a mountain in the car I brought from the States when the engine stopped, all the brakes failed, and the power-assisted steering failed. Miraculously, the car kept on the road until we reached the valley bottom." Although Pops didn't know it, this wasn't going to be the last time that invisible hands kept Pops and his friends safe from dodgy bridges, frozen rivers, mudslides, runaway trailers, and many more near disasters. But Pops reckons the safest place to be is in the will of God, and Nana thanks God that her husband, whom she loves very much, despite him thinking he looks better in a vest than Bruce Willis, is being looked after by a mighty God.